everybody, this is Amy Gleason here from Plastic City Comic Con.
And Keith Gleason from Plastic City Comic Con. How's it going?
We're back for another comic review. So I think we have two interesting titles that you're going to want to hear about. Do you want to go first, Keith?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I'm reviewing Rick and Morty, the Vindicators one-shot from Press is like a small press label that's been around for probably a long time, almost 20 years, I think. But they have the Rick and Morty license now, and I'm always kind of like, with like movie and TV tie-in stuff, you know. But I really enjoyed this episode with the Vindicators. It was like, you know, parody of like superhero teams and things like that. But I love Rick and Morty. I think it's funny. I don't know how people feel about it. I know the fans for Rick and Morty are terrible, but... Oh my god,
the fans are like out of control. Didn't they shut down McDonald's over the Szechuan sauce thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's as awful as Walking Dead fans. Yeah. But like, don't let that taint the property. I think the cartoon is actually really funny and really smart.
Well, it's by Dan Harmon.
Dan Harmon.
A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, done Community. If you like Community, Rick and Morty's kind of like the same kind of humor, you know. But to the comic, so I'll start with the story. Like, it was okay, you know. Like they kind of get like some of the humor. Like there's a couple parts that were funny, but you could clearly tell it's not as smart as like Dan Harmon's humor. Mm-hmm. You know, it almost comes off like fanfic, you know. It wasn't bad, but I also felt like when it finished, it was just hitting the middle of the storyline. Okay. So I don't know if it's like gonna. It looks in the back there was like 3 other one-shots coming out.
Does it end like on a cliffhanger?
Well, not. It kind of ends on like this big splash page where it could be kind of over, and it says the end at the bottom. But it almost felt like that's where the story was starting. And I don't know. It comes off as like Rick and Morty's greatest hits because, you know, they got Scary Terry in there, and then the Meeseeks are in there. So it's almost like, here's a fanfic of Rick and Morty, you know? Yeah,
like your fantasy combination of all your favorite characters.
Yeah. I give the story, I'm gonna go with like a C+ on the story. Like I said, there was a couple chuckles, but it's kind of weirdly structured, and it kind of ends like when I think it's just starting. I don't know. It's kind of odd. I wouldn't say it's $5. I don't know if it's really worth the money. Wow. Yeah, I'd say if it was $2.99, maybe it would have been worth it. But I'd say the artwork is really good, and the coloring is great. It's very reminiscent of the show.
It looks like it's right out of the show.
Yeah, it looks like they almost took screenshots from the show. I mean, it captures the characters really well. Yeah, I'd give the art like a solid like A- because it was, you know, it really captures the show. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I don't know if I would recommend it unless you're really a diehard Rick and Morty fan. You probably want this, and I would say go for it. Whereas me and you've been picking up one-shots here and there. I haven't really been crazy about it. And I was curious after hearing that story about people going nuts for it. So when I saw it in the store, I was like, let me pick it up, you know. But yeah, so that's my final review of that, you know. So I'd say get it if you're a diehard Rick and Morty fan, but if you're just a casual fan, you probably could pass or wait for this to be in a trade paperback. Because I guarantee they're going to take all these one-shots and throw them into a trade. Mm-hmm. So what do you got, Amy?
I have Gideon Falls.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to reading that.
Which is...
Possibly today.
You're going to read it today?
Yeah, possibly.
It's written by Jeff Lemire, and the art is by Andrea Sorrentino, who's an Italian artist.
Okay.
Keith is the one who picked this up.
Yeah.
I got to read
Jeff
it first.
Lemire.
Yeah, big Jeff
Lemire.
Lemire.
Or someone said today his name might be pronounced Lemire.
Oh, really?
I haven't heard it pronounced that way yet. This is the first person to say it. So I'm going to stick with Lemire.
Yeah.
So anyways, go ahead.
So story-wise, I can't spoil it at all because Keith hasn't read it. It is a horror comic put out by Image. I like the story so far. I like where it's going. It focuses on sort of 2 main characters, a priest and this other guy who seems to have some sort of mental illness. It's got a creepy vibe to it. I like it a lot. It takes place in Gideon Falls, which is a town, I guess. It's a first issue, so it's mostly set up. There's not a lot of arc in it. You know, it's sort of, these are your characters, this is what's going on, and it ends with like a horror, like, oh my god, shocking scene. So yeah, it's definitely a setup for a larger arc. I like it a lot. I like Jeff Lemire's writing. I think he does a good job of moving from one character to the next and building that sort of tension.
Yeah, he's very good writer.
Yeah, he's good. So I like the story a lot, and I look forward to continuing to read it and see where it goes and what happens, because I'm curious. You know, there's a lot of weird elements that are mentioned in it.
Cool.
So look, it's really good, story-wise. Art-wise, I can only speak to what I like. You know, I have very specific tastes. Andrea Sorrentino has done a lot of work. I had to look him up, but he's done Green Arrow, and he's done the new Old Man Logan. He's done a lot of work for Marvel and DC, so he's pretty popular. In this book, I don't love the artwork. Compositionally, it's good, and the layout is good. But looking at it, it really looks like a lot of the artwork in it may be, like this page here, which I can show, that looks like it's computer drafted to me. Yeah. You know, it could be, yeah. It could, I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe it's all drawn traditionally, but it has this weird, like, fisheye look to it, which, you know, whatever. It's just not my taste. But my big issue with the artwork is this sort of woodcut grain that's all over the blacks. So all of the black ink in the book has this kind of texture to it, which I don't like. I don't know. It's a look.
It's very different from other stuff I've seen. Yeah, I'll have to evaluate it when because I evaluate artwork too on the fact that, you know, if it's drawn well and what techniques they use, but also if it can tell the story well.
Yeah, so yeah.
Like, you know, that's more important, I think, sometimes in comics, is that you can understand what's actually happening versus whether the picture looks nice or not. I mean, you know, so I'll evaluate that later when I look at it. But I can't tell really. The cover's nice though. Like,
the cover's great. Creepy. And then here's like, well, I don't want to show you too much, you know, so I don't want to spoil it for you. Storytelling, I think visually storytelling, it's good. It's fine. So I'm gonna give the artwork an A-, which is probably a higher grade than you would have thought I would have given it, because I agree with you. Like, the visual storytelling, it's really good. The layout of the images is great. The characterization is good. You know, it's visual storytelling is right up there. It's like top notch. So I'd say A-.
Okay.
That's my grade.
Sounds good.
So this one was only $3.99. So
yeah, Image usually stays to $3.99. You usually don't have like the super packed first issue or whatever, you know. And they try to. The other thing I like about Image is they try to collect the first 5 or 6 issues, and then they offer the trade for $10. So
nice.
So some people might be waiting for Gideon Falls. I know some of Jeff Lemire's stuff reads better as a trade, but I've been collecting him monthly, so. He's a very versatile writer, too, which is what I like about him. He can do stuff like that. Then he can do slice of life, and then he can do a full-blown, awesome, like, superhero book. So, yeah, he's one of those guys that's pretty good. So.
Okay, so that wraps up our comic reviews for this week. Don't forget, Plastic City Comic-Con is Saturday, April 21st, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in beautiful Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Admission is $5. Kids 12 and under are free parking. So come on down and have some comic fun with us.
That's going to be a great time. All right, we'll see you guys there, and see you on the next video.
Bye!
Bye!